There are bad smells, and then there are smells that stay with you forever. Reddit asked, what's the worst thing you've ever smelt? And the replies range from tragic to disgusting, dead animals, rotting food, and stories that'll make you grateful you can't smell through your screen. My neighbor died. I live in a duplex, and was dead for over a month before we found him because we went into the attic and thought an entire family of raccoons died to there. Second worst is the smell of a foreign object blockage removed from a dog's intestines. Same for me. The lady who lived behind me died of COVID, and she lived alone so her body wasn't found for a while. The smell that escaped her closed-up house was bad, but when the cops opened the door my nose hairs almost caught fire. I had to give a 12-foot constipated carpet python an enema. What came out of her was pure death. I've never smelt anything so bad in my life. I threw up in my mouth. I worked in Alaska unloading fishing boats and a 1-ton tote of fish was left on the docks for a very long time during an uncharacteristically warm, in the 60s, month. I don't know how any of this happened, not my department, and when the crane operator lifted it to dump it into the water he somehow spilled the entire on the deck. 1 ton of rotten pink salmon that we then had to shovel into the Sound. I once bought 1 kilogram of fresh mussels and took them home. I broke my ankle later that day and somehow the bag got put behind a sofa which was close to a radiator. Few weeks later, all is forgotten until one cold day the heating is put on for first time that year, and there's a pop. Worst smell in my life. Cleared the room fast. Can still smell it decades later. Homeless student with bedbugs that CPS refused to do anything about after a dozen calls. The teenager removed their shoes. One person in the room vomited immediately. Didn't even make it to the trash, just instant vomit. Imagine teenage feet smell for weeks in shoes they never took off. Put bedbug smell on top of it. Almost like metallic rotting flesh, dirt, feet, and fish. The smell was so horrific we closed school for a day and had the area treated with ozone by a crime scene cleaner. That was worse than the fermented can of ocean sins my friends opened in a bucket of cold water in Iceland. But the fermented shark or whatever it was canned was a very close second. Once I went to a musical, and happened to be sat next to a man who proceeded to breathe with his mouth open the entire time. And I strongly suspect he had eaten cat litter for dinner before the show. I had to sit in a big auditorium class in college once next to a dude who had the worst fucking breath, so I feel you. He kept turning to ask me questions and I was polite but goddamn I was dying. It was a 2-hour lecture too. Burnt up body in a car fire. That smell is something I will never forget, but what haunts me was the sounds and after, filling out the coroner's report. That's what the smell brings back. A brother-in-law got a deer and had it butchered. Then he asked my mom if he could store it in her chest freezer, in the basement. Well, at some point the power to the freezer went out. About 4 months later someone opened the freezer for roughly 3 seconds. It was ungodly. Neighbors 3 and 4 doors away complained. It stunk for weeks, no matter how many bottles of ammonia or Clorox we used. We had to get rid of the freezer. The people at the dump complained about the smell. Combining ammonia and Clorox is also not a good smell. That's poison.
Hi guys, if you like my video, please just subscribe, drop a like and tap the bell, so you won't miss the next video. I'm already working on a new one for you, so see you.
I grew up on a farm and as a teen did a lot of odd jobs for cash. Mostly it was helping another farm bale hay and stuff like that. One summer though an old guy that lived alone on his farm passed away and nobody realized for quite a while because he didn't go into town much. I was stupid enough to agree to help clean up the farm. He had a bunch of pigs that were locked up when he died so their crap stopped getting cleaned, then they started to die and eat each other. The few that were alive had to be put down. But the stench was something I'll never forget. The smell of the pig shed was so much worse than the stench of human decomp. At the end of each day I just stripped down to my underwear and threw my clothes into the burn pit and drove home with my windows open, showered with the hose in the backyard, showered again inside. I honestly can't imagine anything worse to smell. Those pigs didn't deserve that and neither did you. Garbage dumpster at this gas station I worked at in high school. I hucked a garbage bag in there, and the smell that came wafting out, indescribable. I learned in that moment that you really can barf just from a bad smell. Smelled even worse than the decomposing dead guy I watched them pull out of the ocean at the beach. My dad is a pastor and growing up we lived in a small town. No one had heard from this one old man in over a week. My dad, a cop, and myself for some fucking reason went on over. Cop couldn't bust down the door, there was some legal reason, so he had my dad do it. We knew the guy was in there dead before anyone walked in. The smell was so bad I threw up like 3 times. My dad used to be an EMT and even he and the cop got sick too. Just horrible. It was July in the deep south too. Liquefied mouse in the part of the car trunk that holds the tire. You literally could not smell it at all until we got a flat and had to open the cover. Almost puked twice cleaning the trunk out even with a peppermint oil mask. I vacuum out the trunk regularly, but of course why would I check underneath the tire? Easily worse than bad eggs from when chickens try to hatch them and eggs don't develop right, so the eggs need removed. That's probably the runner-up for worst. All your answers will probably be similar, anything dead. I took a forensic evidence class and we got to attend an autopsy for one class. Fortunately, I had a sinus infection and couldn't smell a thing. Some folks put Vicks in their nostrils, but the me said that was the worst thing they could do because it made sure that their nasal passages were wide open. Got into a girl's car once and immediately gagged. And I've never gagged before over anything unless I was actively vomiting. Her car smelled like cigarettes and a 17-day-old yeast infection. And I had to ride along. I hung my head out the window and pretended to be car sick. I was though, really, her car, sick. A russet potato had gone over in a spectacular fashion in a cabinet, broken down into ooze. I thought it was a dead animal, the stench was that bad. But it got so bad because I couldn't find the damn thing. And when I did, it still looked like a potato until I tried to pick it up. It is here, my friends, I leave you to ponder because I can't write the words. This happened to me and completely ruined the bottom of the cabinet. Dated a girl when I was in my 20s. She went to Pitt University and lived in off-campus housing. One of those collage rental places that the light switch covers almost disappear from being painted over so many times over so many years. Also, we had to open the windows during the winter to counteract the radiator that ran hot and could not be turned down. It also had one of those old-timer elevators that you had to pull the gate over. And of course it didn't always work. So we are setting up a party at her apartment, which was on the 6th floor. I have a quarter barrel of beer in my hands, waiting for the elevator on the 1st floor. But there was this awful, awful smell. I had no problem carrying up the keg because it just smelt so bad. Just a wrong smell. Fast forward a few days and I saw on the news that someone had died on the 1st floor a few days ago. All I could think of was that they had died near one of the hot radiators and just cooked.